Get yourself comfortable, however that might be. Make sure you're wrapped up and warm. And as ever, we will just start with 5 breaths. And if you don't like focusing on the breath itself, some people don't, then you can just make the real focus of your attention the movement of the body as the breath comes in and out. So the breath becomes secondary and the movement is the primary focus, or maybe the sound of breath moving in and out, or maybe the feeling, the cold and the warmth. So lots of options, but try to take 5 breaths down towards 0 and then start again. Good, and now as ever, just noticing any tension, tightness, anywhere it feels like stuff is just locked up in the body. And if you feel comfortable and safe to do it, you can just allow that to gently break apart and soften any tension that you feel like you can let go of. You're totally at liberty to let that just trickle away as you breathe out. Following the breath along its journey from the nose, feel it pass the back of the throat, down inside the neck, entering the chest and then the lungs, and following it back out. And being aware that if your mind is very jumpy today, that's totally fine. That's why we're practicing. If your mind is very calm and undisturbing today, that's totally fine as well. That's no basis to judge our practice as good or bad. That's just falling back into the thinking mind again, which somehow thinks it can classify tasks that it has nothing to do with. Now starting to notice the still spaces at the top and the bottom of the breath. The breath moves in and there's a pause or an almost stop, and the breath moves out and again there's an almost stop or a slowing down. There are these moments of no breath, just fleeting and passing. Our tendency is always to notice the objects, the movements, we always notice the in and the out, but never the stillness behind the breath. We just overlook that. Just as we notice the sounds that appear in our awareness, and we totally overlook the silence that is always there between them and behind them. You just spend a few moments allowing awareness to notice the silence behind sounds, stillness between thoughts. Instead of searching for objects and picking them out or selecting them, which requires effort, just soften that effort and instead allow the awareness just to rest in the quietness and the stillness. We find that that quietness is always there. If you've been pulled back to the objects, you feel a subtle effort or tugging towards something. Instead of hanging on to it, look for the stillness behind it and then rest in that stillness. So then move back to a visualization if you're struggling. If you're not, you can carry on just in this simple way. But if you're feeling pulled around from one thing to another, just return to that idea of a glowing black orb. Sounds like an odd concept. Or a glowing black circle at the center of a blank white background. That orb or circle represents stillness. It represents the awareness completely at rest. And if it helps to have an anchor today, you can just let yourself rest entirely on that circle. It might gently inflate and deflate with your breath. It might be gently vibrating or humming. Or it might be completely still in every way. But you'll notice that as soon as a distraction pulls you away, that maybe that circle moves across the blankness of the background as if it's being pulled towards something. Maybe you lose sight of it altogether as you forget about it. Or maybe something else happens for you when you become distracted that helps you notice distraction has happened. And whilst this awareness or knowing is happy just to rest at the center there, every now and then there will be a spontaneous movement as the thinking mind throws something up, finds something fascinating, starts creating a new story. If you notice you've been dragged into one of these news stories, that's completely normal. That's just our habit. Whatever that story is about, however relevant it appears, even if that story is to do with meditation, apparently, just see it for what it is. Just aimless activity of thinking mind. And then return to the stillness between the thoughts, or return to your black orb or circle, whatever helps you to relax back into just pure knowing. Just noticing any movements, any fluttering, any irritation, anything that arises. Just allow it to pass through, clearly seeing but not attaching to it. Might even be a moment where we realize we could function perfectly well like this, without so much clutter. Now let the awareness go to your breath again. All of a sudden, there's the breath appearing in reality. Who knows where it vanished to? And just reconnect with the movement of the breath, feeling it in the physical body. As you start noticing your body again, where it's contacting the ground, where parts of it are touching other parts, space around it, sounds in the room or outside. And taking 5 breaths now. These are coming up from 0 to 5. Each breath just becoming slightly more active, slightly longer. And each one just refreshing the body and slowly waking it up. If you're just refueling it from the toes up to the head, feeling it with a fresh awakeness. Letting go of anything that you don't need to be carrying for the day. Maybe feeling some gentle tingling or movement coming back to your fingers and your toes, arms and your legs, moving or stretching in any way that feels good for you. Maybe rubbing your hands, your thighs or your face, whatever shouts out. Taking a nice yawn or something. And finally allowing your eyes to open whenever you're ready to. No need to rush. Well, remembering it can just take a while for our brainwaves just to settle back into that waking state after, if you manage to unwind and relax there. So always give yourself a few moments with a nice cup of tea, just to allow that to happen. Awesome.